Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we have a really cool topic, actually. This is something I just came up with a little while ago while having my coffee. And we often get into these negative loops when we're in a breakup, right? Or when we're in a bad place in our life. A little clown hair here. What was the best thing that ever happened to you? Now, this is one of those questions. And when I send out my questions, I send out a set of 10 questions, sometimes 20 questions actually, to people before we do a live coaching session. And some of these questions just reframe things in your head about you. A lot of times we're obsessed with our ex getting back together, what our ex did, what happened, what transpired, how they did us wrong, how they're in a bad place right now. And we should come back at some point to ask ourselves some serious questions. And by asking certain questions, it actually puts you in a good frame for a moment. And what I've realized in doing this work and talking to a lot of people around the world and the psychology of things are a moment. Does that make sense? So we have these moments that we create. We give these moments longevity, really. And in these moments, you are prolonging them when really they're over, okay? Because it was traumatic, it was surprising, it was great. But there are some moments with longevity that were good, right? But what was the best thing that ever happened to you? Now, I always say the unconscious mind is going to tell you the first thing that it believes is true. So don't fight the first thing. Sometimes you're looking for a better answer, or you're looking for, wait a minute, I can give a better answer than this. What's the first thing that came to mind? And when I ask questions like these, I ask myself the question. And I wasn't really sure at first, because your mind's going, oh, this is a big competition, right? This is a big fucking competition to tell somebody it's got to be so grand and wonderful. What was the best thing that ever happened to you? I think a lot of people that have kids would say kids, maybe people on their marriage day. But probably the best thing that ever happened to me is breaking up with my ex. And I'm going to get to the comments in a moment. Please keep posting. And I'm being honest about this. I'm not just saying this because, a lot of you guys have been in breakups, but I think I fucking know this is one of the reasons why I'm able to do breakup coaching and help people, because my breakup was something that I thought was this huge crisis, this traumatic moment, this level of despair and sadness and anger at times. And now looking back 10 years ago was the best thing that ever happened to me, because me continuing to be the person that I was in that relationship at that time was not going to bloom the way I've, become the kind of person. I don't know if bloom is the right word, but I definitely wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I wouldn't meet these people from all over the world. I would have never pursued teaching, which was something I always wanted to do, and somehow found roadblocks, namely being financials, because growing up, environment counts, right? And growing up in the area I grew up in, a lot of people would be like, well, you want to be a teacher? There's no money in that. And it affected me. But having that breakup spun my life so upside down that I had to really take some inventory on what it is I wanted, where I was at, stop blaming other people, and really get to a point where I'm like, all right, what do I really want to do right now? I'm at ground zero. I can't feel any worse than this. I want to educate myself on not being in this position again. And I also want to start doing some of these things I keep talking about but never get to. So the breakup for me was the spark of that. It did take a full year to kind of come out of the haze of a 5-year serious relationship. And even, afterwards you felt a pinch, and really out of a breakup, until you meet someone else and prove to yourself And I'm not saying that a rebound's good, but I'm saying that you meet someone else that's of significant quality, that's a significant match, that's congruent with where you're headed in life. It's always going to be in the background, the X and what you used to have, right? And the other question, did you think this was a bad thing later on, knowing it was the right thing at the right time? So even Judy Jack, because I believe that a lot of people would say the birth of my first son, which is outstanding. And most people would agree. I've had friends say, the birth of their child, they start crying, buddies of mine that are highly masculine alpha types, right? The linebacker on the football team. And they just were in tears, right? But at the same time, I'm not saying this about Judy Jack, but there's sometimes people get pregnant by accident. Well, I guess it's never pure accident, but they get pregnant. They think, wow, what's going to happen? How am I going to make enough money? There's worries prior to the birth. And once it happens, it's the best thing that ever happened to you. But it started off being a little traumatic and stressful in some cases, not maybe yours, Judy Jack. Best thing that ever happened to Mr. Nike Swoosh. With my ex dumping me at the time, it felt like death, but growth that came after it was life-changing for me. See, I'm in the same boat, Nike one. 3 likes? Cheers, lads. I'm in the same boat. And at the time, this is the crazy part about this whole topic, is I never foresaw 10 years later me doing this or me sitting in this chair going, yeah, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Fuck. Because it was dark. It was a dark moment. I remember laying in bed just going, oh, when am I going to feel better? Right? And looking back, I can kind of laugh at it. And in the 10 years since then, there's been some moments, there's been some sad times. But I think when you have something like that happen, like I said, I guess to get a little deep on it, it's a resurrection in a lot of ways, right? And that's a big theme in The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. I don't know if you know that arc of a story, Nike one, but rebirth and resurrection, which is in a lot of religions and whatnot, which I'm not going to get into that. But, in some cases, a breakup is like that, right? It's a rebirth. Serby's on deck, Mr. Pasadena. The Rose Bowl, man. Getting ghosted was the best thing. I found the love of my life because I was suffering from one-itis for a while. So you've read The Rational Male. Yeah, I mean, good point. So she ghosted you. She, went up for no contact. And it actually was a good thing. And that's why I support people now in doing it for themselves with no contact, because even though it hurts you, that's the part of healing, right? And that's what I get back to a lot of times is if you had a surgery or you had an ankle break or a knee break, you're going to have to heal and it's going to hurt a little while. If you try to medicate or do something to take a shortcut, you never get better. And probably, Serby, you probably agree when that first happened, you were thinking, what the fuck? She ghosted me? Oh, GoCon, what's up, buddy? How you been, man? Turkey's finest. Good to see you, bud. Thanks for joining. Let me know if you have the best thing that ever happened to you. Could be anything. Best thing that ever happened to you. I think this is a good topic. Thanks for joining, bud. So, to be honest, this breakup was one of the best things that happened to me. It is funny because Rory from the Love Chat acted for. Okay. And I said, I'm thankful that my ex breaking up with me. Storylines, narratives do flip. They do change. And you're capable of changing the narrative to the story at any moment. So these things, the fact is you broke up, right? It hurt you. You could hold on to that for the next 5 years and say, she did this, she did that. You've met people like this, right? Oh, this, that, this, that, this, that. Or you could change it and go, yeah, she broke up with me. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because it opened up the gate for me to self-improvement, reading new books and realizing maybe we weren't a good match. And I'm highly capable of meeting someone that's more congruent with my beliefs. That's a better narrative. What's the difference? Choice. I'm young, as you know, Max, so I have so many life experience that I've yet to experience. Well, the thing is about that, Mr. Daniel, Better to get the life experience up front when you're young, because then they say the young is wasted on the young. And I didn't have my smack in the mouth or greatest life experience till my late 20s. So you might as well have yours now, and you're going to have many more, right? Oh, man, at the time, it was like death sentence. After all the stuff I've gone through, that was the hardest thing I've gone through. I made it a mission to be someone different than who I was. That's fucking outstanding, Nike. One that gives me chills. Because I get it. I actually totally get it. And it's interesting to be, because I know your situation from having a live coaching with you, to be in a relationship as deep as you had, the swoosh Nike one. Actually, when you look back, is a privilege. I had 5 really good years. And I've had some other girlfriends that we've had some really good times and we had a really good relationship. And not everyone has that. There's some people that have had nothing but bad relationships, and you were a part of that. You contributed to that, and everything comes to an end, unfortunately. I just was watching for the first time in a long time. This is random, guys. 7 years in Tibet. I'm sick of the Netflix series that are like cheesy. Gokhan, you might be able to comment on this. Because you're into movies and stuff, but the level of storytelling in movies right now, I just saw The Current, I think, but in 7 years in Tibet, he says nothing ever lasts. He also says it in Benjamin Button, and it's true. It's true. It's going to end at some point, right? Yep, she ghosted me after I went no contact for 2 years. Then I let my guard down and I tried to set up a date. She ghosted after that, after she got what she wanted. Now she is history. I haven't used that term in a long time. She's history. Good for you. And the thing is, you ended up better off, right? It just goes to show you sometimes in moments that we really think are that bad, we can go look back and go, you know what? I laugh at myself a little bit looking back at how I was. And the funny thing is in a live coaching session, a lot of times I'm smiling at things sometimes. And most people get it, because sometimes you got to laugh at the situation, man. Sometimes you got to find some humor. You got to grin a little bit. She was never yours. It was just your turn. Rob. I know that statement. That's not usually something you say about your girlfriend, though, of years. Those relationships are a little deeper. That's for a little bit more of a shallow relationship. But I've heard that statement before, and it applies in certain cases, but I'm not sure it applies in long-term relationships. That's harsh, right? I just feel like what I did after the breakup is what made my breakup one of the best things that has ever happened to me. Pushed me to work on myself to the max. Well, there you go. It pushed you. And that's the thing, is to get better, to do things, we need pressure. I've been a teacher for years. I was a university student. Nothing special about that, but I have a degree in history, which is, not a prestigious degree or anything. But my point is, I had to write a lot of papers, right? And I've given homework. And if I give you 2 weeks to do something, 90% of people will probably do it the night before they have to do it. I was like that as a student, right? And what my point about this is, the breakup's the same way. You can have a bad relationship with some good parts, right? Let's say you share rent. Let's say that she gets along with your family really well. She cooks. But she goes out with friends drinking too often. She's disrespected you in the past. My point being is, you're dealing with all those bad things because you don't want to reset the clock. I know where everyone's coming from, and you don't want to start over. But when you get in a breakup, you're at ground zero. You're like, fuck this. I need to get to work. I got a fucking deadline, because I don't want to feel like this. Because if I continue to feel like this, life ain't worth it right now. I got to fucking show up, and I got to keep showing up. And that's what it does for you. It pressures you in a good way. And once you take it that way, it takes 2 or 3 months, depending on how long the relationship is, to fucking lick your wounds, right? for me too. It's not one of those things where you just go, oh, one day this is the best thing that ever happened to me. No, it's a fucking process, dude. People can give out a 20-minute speech on this thing. I could do a TED talk on this, right? But my point is until the breakup happens, you're going to deal with a half crappy relationship, or a relationship where you might have got disrespected or you weren't really happy, because until you hit that ground zero and someone pulls the plug on the relationship, it gets really real quick. Right? Political science. Oh, poli-sci. I like poli-sci. It's interesting, man. It's like when I got my history grade, everyone's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with history? Well, I always wanted to be a teacher. Oh my God, you'll make no money in California. God, well, yeah. But I enjoyed history, learned a lot about people, learned a lot about patterns. Took some interesting classes, actually. And probably could have easily double majored in anthropology, which is a vast topic, but very interesting. And now with YouTube, I can, if I want to dig into some anthropology stuff, it's always there. It's really cool. At a time when we actually used books and I know, I tell people this sometimes. I'm like, I used to have to use the fucking library. When I had to get information, I had to go to the library. Now I just go to the library because it's comfortable and it's quiet and I like the environment. I was just telling someone this in a live coaching session. I said, hey, look, when you're really stressed out, I used to like to go to the library. And she's like, really? And I'm not even someone that reads a lot of books, but it's so, you walk into the library, like a real library or a city library that's nice. I don't know if everyone in the world has access to a nice library. There's some nice cities. Pasadena probably has a beautiful library, right? But you go in there and it's quiet. Everyone's calm. No one's fucking arguing. No one's bitching. No one's supposed to be on the phone. I don't know if people are on the phone these days, but the environment's calm. So you put yourself in those environments and it relaxes you. It's a collective unconscious. And she was like, wow. I'm like, go down. You have some extra time right now. Instead of being in your house, go to the library and then go to the library like you were a little kid again and just look at books and pull a book off the thing and start reading it. Sounds random. I used to do it sometimes when I was going through my breakup, and it helps. And like I said, it's so calming in the library. Must have been moving to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam from LA to be able to overcome mental fears and go your own way. Not exactly MGTOW. Well, fuck, that's an interesting story, dude. Ho Chi Minh City. Shit, man, from LA. Reinventing yourself, knowing you can be the best thing that ever happens to you. But yeah, it's a process. It's a fucking process is right, bud. Moving, which I preach a lot, and I know everyone's not capable because, if you have kids or you have a really good job, there's certain things, but I think that moving resets the clock instantly and puts you in a position where you're depending on yourself, and you put yourself out there on an island. You burn the ships when you move somewhere new and make a commitment, and you go, wait a minute, I'm going to grow no matter what. Because when you live in the interesting thing about living in a whole nother country or a whole nother city, you go around and you're like, you go somewhere and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? Oh, they eat that way? It's like, why do you keep taking your shoes off before you go in the house? Or you use a spoon and a fork to eat? And like all these little things are kind of like in your head, like that's wrong. And then you're there for like 4 or 5 months and you start doing the same things. And you just realize there's way more ways to look at the world and do things. And you can pick and choose which one you're like, oh shit, that's a better way to look at things. Oh shit, that's a better way to be. Every culture has its little nuances. And I've heard really good things about Vietnam overall as a place to visit. Actually a client of mine that just came to visit out here was in Phuket and then went over to Vietnam, I think for 5 or 6 days, and said it was wonderful. So majored in international business. So do you have an international business? Has the degree served you? It's an interesting thing. I wouldn't talk about it too much in the live stream today, but I've talked about it with students because I teach at a university, and I've talked about it with them before. And I said, should you go to university? And looking at my own life and getting my degree in history, no regrets. I'm always proud of the achievement, and I finished. That's the thing. I started something and I finished it. It would have been a lot regardless if you use it or not in the context of making a lot of money or being ultra successful, it always feels good to you. I got my degree. It feels good. If someone doesn't have one, though, I don't judge them. I find that people that don't have degrees, some people that I know, or tend to go, oh, just because you have a college degree or something. I don't measure people that way at all. If anything, everyone's an individual with their own life experiences. And there's some damn interesting and successful people that haven't got a degree. Millennials have it easy in school now. Smartphones go. I mean, I grew up in the time when we actually met women face to face, called, no social media, no outside influence. I'll give you one, Serby. When I was a teenager, it was a big deal in my house that we had a separate phone line, like a landline. So there was our house phone line, since you're a kid, and then my sister was 5 years older than me. So my sister being a teenager and stuff, my mom's like, okay, we'll get you got your own phone line. So my sister had her own line because when a teenager, you talked a lot on your landline. And so when I was in high school, I had my own landline number, my own phone in my room that was a cordless phone. Or actually I had a see-through phone, kind of like a Swatch watch. I don't know if you can relate to that one, Serby, but I get it loud and clear. There's definitely way more access to. Think about it. You can go on your phone and you have an encyclopedia. You ever get into a debate with your buddies about a sports question or something like that? You're like, hold on, let me look it up. I mean, how many of you have friends like you're getting in a debate about sports or something and they come back from the bathroom like, yeah, you want to make a bet? Because they just went and checked the answer. Yo, Macadelic. I like that name, Macadelic. How long has it been love? I'm not sure what you mean by that. How long has it been live? Okay. Good correction. 20 minutes. You can learn almost anything thanks to Google. There are a lot of people who are going through the self-taught route to become a software developer, all thanks to the help from the internet. Yeah, you absolutely can learn a lot from the internet. I actually had a very good friend of mine, one of my best friends, one of my favorite friends, that quit school. I think he was in year 4. He was getting a business degree of university. He went junior college and he just quit. And he was like, I couldn't get my classes. And I was like, why didn't you finish? You only had, a year left. And he's like, bro, I can learn everything on YouTube, especially about business. And this guy's a research genius. I mean, any questions? He called Bitcoin. Jeez. Bitcoin was like, I don't know if you guys follow that. Bitcoin was like 3,500. It's at 11 grand like 4 months ago. And he was preaching to me to buy it. For a different show, a different topic, but I actually met the current girl I'm dating face to face. It's definitely a different dynamic. It is a different dynamic, but I'd say that it's definitely there, right? Because in my interactions, I usually meet someone where I work, where I've been to school, or a place that I frequent. Like what I mean by like a cafe, the gym, a restaurant, somewhere where I'm running into someone regularly. So it's not like it's just a cold approach. Like, hey baby, what's up? Can I get your number? No, it's not like that. It's usually like, hey, how you doing? Da-da-da. And then some small talk, and then a couple other times, and then you get to know each other. And then you're like, hey, do you want to go out to dinner sometime? And they're like, what? Really? Well, you already broke the ice a little bit. I've actually met many girls at libraries. Good for you, Rob, little wolf in sheep's clothing. Were you wearing reading glasses too? Pasadena City College has a nice library. Pasadena City Library is really old, but I spent a lot of time there. It's a landmark. I mean, like I said, some of these things like a library thing, it can be when you're going through a bad breakup or you're going through a tough time, it's almost like a church, right? You go in there and it's just like hollow. It's nice. It's calming. It's relaxing. Okay. And some of these nicer cities have beautiful libraries, and I don't think people use them that much anymore because they're not as needed. But the atmosphere of a library is nice. I used to go to one of my favorites is in Burlingame, California, which is in the Bay Area. It's just beautiful. It used to be a Greyhound bus terminal, I think. It's just gorgeous inside. Attachments I used to have. Well, haven't we all, bud? I don't know. I really liked pre-tech dating. How could you recreate pre-tech dating? I mean, I just saw, if you guys know who Tim Ferriss is, who wrote the 4 Hour Work Week, and he was talking about scratching your own itch. Sounds a bit dirty, huh? Scratching your own itch about something that you miss or something that needs to be created. So he says that usually when he creates a book or his podcast or something new, he wants to create a category where he doesn't really see it's being out there. Putting your own spin on it. So like, if you were to create pre-tech dating, what would be the best way to do it, Judy Jack, if you were creating some kind of arena or platform for that? Because I hear people ask that a lot. But I do have friends that use, these apps and stuff, and they love them. I think what happens is someone has a bad experience and then they blanket it as the experience that will happen again and again. But what you're doing with, because you guys will understand this, I don't even know if millennials fully understand cold calling, right? Because you are an international business, Rob. So you know what that is if you've ever been in somewhere. And there's so many different businesses that did cold calling. Oh, God. I remember I had an internship in commercial real estate, and it just, the guy had a, what do you call that? A script, and the script was bullshit. And I just couldn't continue to do something like that. It wasn't getting money from people, it was getting information. And that was short-lived. But where I'm going with this is cold calling for business is very, you're going to make 100 cold calls and maybe you get one lead or one person that's interested in buying or helping you out. And I think that tech dating or meeting people on dating apps and stuff like that is very similar. You're exposing yourself to a higher level of numbers, but you have to do more sifting. It's a lot of work. Had dial-up internet. I remember that. AOL. I got a funny story for you guys about AOL. Years back, this is even years back. This is like 10 years ago. My mom was paying for her email through AOL. She had an AOL email, and she was paying like $15 or $20. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? You can get a Gmail account for free. Oh, no, I want to make sure I keep my name and my thing. I'm okay paying $15 a month. I go, it's ridiculous. I go, you need to contact AOL and let them know that you no longer want. So she contacted them. They're like, oh, yeah, we can make that free for you. But if you want to keep this and this and this and this, then you could pay $5 a month. And she's like, instantly, they just get. I'm like, yeah, because emails are free. Well, why wouldn't they call me? And I'm like, because it's bad business, right? And so I go back. I was working in real estate at the time, and the guy I worked with had AOL also. And I'm like, can you believe my mom was paying for a monthly for her email address? And he's like, well, I do. You know how many people, I wonder how many people are still paying for an email address. I mean, they were paying $15 a month to have an email address, a regular thing. And they just thought it might have been 10. I don't know what it was exactly, but it wasn't $2, and they thought it was required. Oh, wow. That's ridiculous. But the shock to me is that they didn't know that it was offered for free in other emails. A dial-up internet would fight over the phone when someone was online. E.g. dial-up. That's a long time ago. I mean, yeah, shit, man. 18 years ago, 20 years ago. I had a girl I was talking to, though, that we talked together on dial-up. And I remember doing the messaging back and forth. This was before texting was very big. Look at pager code, if you guys are old enough for that, 823. Wrist watches are still valuable. Yes, they are. I agree. I always like having a watch. Some people don't wear watches anytime. A friend of mine was like, yeah, you're always worried about what time it is. It's a sign that you worry too much. I'm like, you wear a watch, it's a sign that you worry too much? No, I like to know what the fucking time is, dude. That's just robbery. Watches make a man. Never heard that statement. I like to have a watch. I've never had an ultra expensive watch. There are lots of watch YouTube sites dedicated to watches collecting. Cool. I used to like swatches when I was young. I still have a Swatch watch. They're always good gifts, right? I always had a few gift watches. But the last one that I really liked watch-wise was like a Swiss Army one. I don't know if it was Wanger. It sounds funny. Wagner or Wagner. That was a nice watch. Had the brushed steel. The watch I have now is actually a secondhand watch that actually means something to me. All right, folks, come on. Let's get on deck. We got 13 people here. Let's get chiming in. What's the best thing that ever happened to you? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Please share. Let's make this interesting. Right? A military field watch or flagger watch. I don't know what that is. Check out 24 hours at a time. 24 hours time, you'll like it. Check out 24 hours at a time. I don't know what you mean by that. You mean military time? I'm not sure I follow. Oh, that's a channel. Okay. Got it, bud. Jay-Z. Heart attack at 37? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you talking about yourself? Now that is crazy because I'm 38. You had a 37-year-old heart attack, bud. Jesus. Jay-Z, I'm just guessing. Did you just send me your story? Because I'm about to upload it after this. Because I'm just guessing by those. That's the initials of the person that sent this story a couple days ago, Jay-Z. But tell me this. What does a heart attack do to you? This is just my curiosity. Maybe some other people are interested in knowing this. Did you go actual what do they call did you flatline? Did you flatline, and how was that? Or how was it to have a heart attack, man? And then the day after, what? Such a loaded question. No pun intended. Man, heart attack at 37. Best thing that ever happened to you. You cheated death 2 times? Okay. Coming out of that, was that the best thing that ever happened to you? And how did you cheat death? It's an interesting statement. Yes, sir. Sent the story, and yes, had a month. Okay, I thought it was you, Jay-Z. You got a cool name. I'm uploading that. Sorry, I was just at a cafe before I started this, and the upload speed was quite slow. So, wow, a month long. Yes, had a month-long heart attack. What the fuck? No flatline. 100% block of the Widowmaker. Okay, so in what way was it the best thing that ever happened to you? Because from the naked eye, if you will, or from me just hearing that, I don't know how that's the best thing. But was it just a wake up call to live life? Do you just look at things differently overall now? You know what I would add to that, Jay-Z, that's really interesting in my life. You know, you've had close calls. I don't know if I'd call it cheating death, but like you've almost gotten in a really bad accident. I have a couple. I'll save that for another live stream, another story set, because I like to tell these kinds of stories. I got a couple close ones actually. Jeff King, thanks for the period. But when you do quote unquote cheat death or have these close calls, I do know this. I've been in some really close calls. Now they're all coming about. In those moments when you get out of the close call, it feels fucking outstanding. It feels like you did, something really bad could have happened, especially like a close call in an accident. I've had a few of those for sure. I've had a few bike accidents that were really bad. I got hit by a car too when I was little. I had complications inside my heart, and doctors said I had a low percentage of survival. Jesus, man, that gives me chills, EG. Well, it's fucking a privilege that you have been a part of my live streams and been shit, man. You're on borrowed time, my friend. And the funny thing is, you're probably saying that like, yeah, it kind of makes you feel good, man. A place I would frequent a lot when going through my breakup was Barnes and Noble. Was in there reading and trying to understand who I am like a madman. I was determined to figure out why I did. That's funny, Nike. When I used to go to Barnes and Noble a lot too. Barnes and Noble, libraries, and sometimes I would read a lot, and sometimes I would just pick up something random. But I like the quiet. Figure out why I did certain things. It's a journey. After waking up from surgery, my doctor said, "Congratulations, you're still alive." Began dating again after a 3-year break from my divorce and just went all in on everything. Well, this puts a little substance to the story that you sent in, my friend. Shit. Oh, I miss those old bookstores. Loved Borders. Yeah, Borders is dust, huh? I used to go to Borders. It's, you know what? You want to hear a funny story about that? When my nephew was young, I took him in there. And he used to get spoiled a little bit by my mom, his grandma. And so we go walking around in there and stuff. And, Borders or Barnes and Noble, the nice thing about it is it's kind of like a library. You can take books off the shelf and just sit in there and read. So I don't know if that's a good business practice, but you know what I mean. So we're in there, we're looking at different books. And my nephew comes over with like 5 books that he's picked out for me to buy. And they're not cheap books. They're not kids' books. I got him into sports when he was young. So he was only like, I want to say 7 or 8 years old. He got these big NFL football, books and legend book. I'm Jones. He sits down. He's looking at me. He's like, all right, I want to get these. And I'm like, you serious? It's like, that's a $30 book. That's a $40 book. Oh, I want to get those. And I'm like, put them back. He was crushed. Then I had to take him to the library, right? There's something about a library that invokes inner peace. Thank you, brand new Skinner. That's why I'm telling people, think outside the box when you're going through a breakup. Going to a place like that helps because the collective unconscious inside the library is calm. It's cool. It's collective. There's usually AC or there's a heater. People are relaxed. No one's. I don't know how it is now because I haven't been in a really nice library in a long time where I live. But the ones in nice cities, man. When having a brush with death, it puts life in perspective. That's for sure. Let's say I've been around the block a few times. I'm just happy to still be here at 32. And I'm happy you're here too, bud. And like I said, I've had a few with accidents, I had a couple motorbike accidents, and I've had a couple close calls driving for sure. Maybe I'll share that in a post some other time because they're interesting stories. And each time I was like, yeah, like you get this like adrenaline, like you just beat it for that moment. And then like it sets in, it's like, got to start being a little more careful. Anyone see the indie bookstore in Haight-Ashbury section of San Francisco? I don't know specifically which it's called, the indie bookstores. Oh, see the indie bookstores? No, can't say I have. I've been to Haight-Ashbury. The last time I was there 4 or 5 years ago. And I lived in the city for almost a year. Didn't go to Haight-Ashbury a lot, but I've been there. But I don't know the indie bookstores very well. No, to answer your question. Since the accident, I started to live my life to the fullest because I don't know if I'm going to survive the next one. Well, regardless, you're here right now. You keep showing up. You keep doing your thing. If things happen, I'm not proud of doing so, but the same night, I don't regret any of it. Well, that's good. I've said this before in one of your streams, but I went to a psychic during the heart of my breakup, and I think that it was a pivotal moment in my healing. Really? I've gone to a psychic before. I've talked about this in really interesting book if you're into that kind of stuff, Mr. Brand New Skinner. Chicago's Finest, I remembered. I might be spelling this wrong. Nike One can appreciate bad spelling, right? Extraordinary knowing. If you kind of are interested in the psychic phenomenon and things, it's not one of those things that's the ladies actually researching how people know without knowing. I found it fucking highly, highly interesting. she actually passed away, but extraordinary knowing. It's a woman. I can't think of her name. I'll think of it in a moment. She went to Cal. But if you're into that kind of stuff, I love to hear about those. But I called a lady she said she's an energy healer and she sees things. During my breakout, I talked about this before, and it was a good experience. And I do believe that people can get rapport mind-wise. And I mean, this is the case when you kind of finish each other's sentences in a relationship, or a family member calls you on the phone and you were just thinking about them. There's some incidences that are pretty real. I can appreciate that coach can't spell. Yeah, and you're a teacher, right? The students love when you say, don't worry about fucking grammar or spelling. When going through my breakup, I had a weekend ritual. Every weekend, I would go on a run to the beach, take a book with me, find a place to read for a bit, treat myself to a good breakfast. Good for you. That's the kind of stuff you need to do. That's a great point, Nike One, is do things that you're just treating yourself well and hanging out with yourself. Because in those moments, and this isn't for everyone, because I've made this suggestion before, and some people that really need to be around people are really uncomfortable being alone. They start to get sad. But when you get in touch, and I think it's something to do when you're in your late 20s or early 30s to kind of get in touch with where you're at and who you are. And you don't even here's the thing. When you do something like that, Nike One, you don't need to read the whole book. You can read 5 pages or 10 pages. You know what I mean? You just need to spend some time that isn't pressure cooked, right? That isn't like, oh, I need to get this. Like, I would read, but I wouldn't read the whole book. So I'm not a fast reader. And that's why I prefer audiobooks now. I fucking love audiobooks. I'm an audio learner. So treat myself to a good breakfast. Was this in PB by chance? What's that breakfast place in PB that at the end of the street? It's cheap and it's got a shitload of food. It's going to bug me for a moment. They used to serve the breakfast on paper plates. When the opposite sex sees you sitting by yourself and reading, let's just say it's always a good conversation starter. Oh, so there's a little method to your madness. Another wolf in sheep's clothing over here. You just spoil yourself once in a while. Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you're feeling down and stuff like that, PB, OB, Coronado, you got all the beaches down. What's crazy? I lived in PB and I lived in Mission Beach, and I didn't really go anywhere else except for La Jolla, Wind and Sea Beach. I used to love that beach, but I didn't go to Coronado. I didn't go to OB. People would be like, oh, have you been to OB? Never really been there. Once I got home to PB, I was on the bicycle. I didn't put very many miles on my car when I lived there. Indie bookstore owners tend to be very interesting. I agree, dude. Bought a book signed by an Ottoman Sultan's daughter. That's fucking crazy. That is crazy. Before I even read the word crazy, I'm like, what the fuck? That's a story to tell, dude. Ottoman Sultan's daughter. That's pretty interesting. Actually, these books that I have in the background, I would say my grandpa had a pretty big collection of books. So like Crazy Horse, he was into the Western and Indian Native Americans, excuse me. But there's a used bookstore, indie bookstore in Phuket town by where I live. And it's really cheap to get secondhand books. So a lot of the books I get from there. Commercial bookstores in the mall just aren't as fun, but they still are cool, right? But I mean, when you go into and you get like a tethered book that's been written on and it's used, it's there's something there. Funny enough, she said, give my ex 7 months. I didn't take the advice, but sure, ex did call me after 7 months. Still not sure how to feel about that. You can feel any way you want. That's the interesting thing. I mean, what I've known is the lady that I talked to, there were some things about me that were absolutely true. There wasn't events per se. There wasn't time, like in 10 days, this will happen, or 6 months, but there were some things that she mentioned that really resonated. And I was like, wow, some of the things that she mentioned were pretty spot on about my identity and my character. But I think if you're going to go to a psychic, you need to be cognizant if someone's trying too hard, to line up everything. If someone's just loosely reading what's going on, that tends to be more interesting, I think. But just like anything else out there, a mechanic, a dentist, a doctor, a breakup coach, there's good ones and there's bad ones. Until you go to them, until you try them, you don't know. I mean, look at the amount of people that are mechanics, or some of these people in different businesses. And you just have to trust their word, right? If I take my car, and I have no mechanic ability at all. Okay. I took auto shop class when I was like a junior, and I was so fucking proud of myself. I had a 1988 Ford Bronco, and I changed the air filter, which basically you unscrew something and take the air filter out. I put the radio on in my garage, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to unscrew this. I changed the air filter. I was done in about 10 minutes. That's about the extent of my mechanic ability. But my point is when you go to someone like that, when you go to a psychic, when you go to any of these people, you're taking a little bit of a chance, because whatever they tell you, you have a choice to believe them or not to believe them. And that's why you get a second opinion usually, especially like the mechanic goes, oh, you need this, this, and this. And you're like, I can't just go in the car and go, yeah, let me take a look myself. I've talked about this before. I couldn't believe my mom worked for a dentist for almost 40 years as like an office manager. And I couldn't believe my mom said that some dentists lie about fillings and things needed in teeth because the insurance cover it. It shocked me. I'm like, a dentist would do that? I wasn't trying to do that, but saw it was working and said, looks like I'll keep this reading stuff up. Best thing I did was end a relationship of 3 years. JJ, I haven't seen you on deck before. Welcome, my friend. Best thing I did was end a relationship of 3 years with a married. Best thing I did was end a relationship of 3 years with a married woman. Thought she would leave her guy for me. Never did. Always look at a woman's actions, not just their words. Lesson learned. Well, I'll tell you this, you closed really well. Lesson learned, because that's clarity one-on-one in life. As long as you're learning from something that hurt you or didn't, and you're the one that ended it. I'll share something really interesting. If you guys have seen the Defiant Ones, which is on Netflix, I don't know if it's on other things, but it's about Dr. Dre. I guess it's about more than just Dr. Dre, but I think it's more about Dr. Dre than anything else. His trials and tribulations, about not being a rapper so much, but where he started, where he got to. And one thing that really stood out to me, if you watch this documentary, I think it's a series, but it's real life, is he was able to walk away when he was going to lose. Does that make sense? Because the position he was in didn't line up with his values. So he was literally able to walk away from a record label, give him all his music, because he was like, this is just too much. And everyone's like, wow, you're going to give him your music, you're going to lose all this money. And he was like, yeah, because to him, I'll start over. Now that's alpha. You guys talk about alpha shit. You can walk away and you can go, you know what? This shit ain't working out for me. I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose big, but I'm going to have confidence in myself to reestablish who I was, where I was, in a better way. He doesn't say that, but it happens 3 or 4 times. I'm like, damn, he just walked away from something. Damn, he just failed. Damn, it wasn't like this guy just made a ton of money, right? That's what was interesting to me. And he had good people around him. But when he had to make a good decision, when he had to make a life-changing decision, it took sacrifice. That stood out to me. He wasn't just always moving up. He was like this: down, up, down, up. What's that? Heartbeat. Not to get deep on you, but think about that. I finished my first book at 29 and I haven't put them down. Used to hate reading. Now I love it. Signs of getting old, huh? I never really loved reading. I didn't hate it. I used to read the newspaper a lot. I grew up, my father read 2 or 3 newspapers a day, front to back. My grandfather did the same thing. We always had newspapers in the house. But here's the thing. I always just read the sports section. And I used to read the stats. I used to like to read box scores. I think that's why I have a pretty good memory. So I always remember things like that, like what someone's batting average was, or how many home runs. I used to always look at the league leaders, things like that. I would know all that stuff like Rain Man. But now I really like audiobooks because I can be driving or I could be doing something else. I've gotten hooked on that. Told her I want 100% of her or nothing at all and walked away, no contact. That's strong, JJ. That is strong. And it turned out to be the best thing you ever did. Most psychics are a scam. It's very rare to find a genuine. Check out that book, Extraordinary Knowing, and tell me what you think, EG. It's an interesting perspective. To make a blanket statement like that, I don't know. See, when people say, oh, most psychics are a scam, what's your experience? You've had a couple that you felt scammed you? It's quite possible. But there are ones out there that I think are legitimate. There's a lot of stuff out there that's legitimate. I don't know, though, if someone being a psychic is going to find the lottery numbers for you. I don't think it works that way. But they definitely can shed light. And I've been in situations where I've been in coachings and talking to people. And when you're dialed in with someone, you start reading different things. And I'm not saying in a psychic level, but you're in rapport. You literally share thoughts. And I'm saying, like, that's when you're really close to someone, right? I mean, how many times have you heard of this? I had a great aunt. I called her my auntie, Auntie Franny, actually. Passed away, but she lost a child, I believe in his early 20s or late teens. He got killed. This was before I was born. I didn't know, but the story, in the family, everyone knows the story. And she told everyone for years that when her son was killed, she literally had a dream that night. Not about exactly what happened, but her kid was like in a forest and something happened. And she woke up and she knew. She knew. How do you explain that? I don't know. Is that psychic? And she wasn't, woo-woo or anything like that. I remember that story since I was a little kid. And it didn't benefit her, but it shows that she's connected in some way, right? I think there's something there to that. It's all about trying out what works for you and figuring out which flavor you are. And you can change. That's the other thing. Be versatile. Always having the ability to maneuver. I had a similar experience with my psychic. She mentioned a few things about me that felt spot on. She even specifically mentioned something important that happened in a specific time frame. Okay, I didn't have that, brand new Skinner. I didn't have a specific time, but there was just some things that I felt like, wow, that's true, or some things about who I was as a person. I was like, wow. I'd literally written something maybe 4 or 5 days earlier, and she basically said what I wrote, which was interesting. Been there recently, JJ. It's all just a learning process. Like you said, you have to choose to believe it or not. I feel like you'll never truly know for sure, so I choose to just accept that it was an interesting experience during a trying time in my life. I look back on the time I had, and it was absolutely what I needed. I talked to that lady. I mean, to be candid with everyone, I talked to that lady for over 2 hours, 20 minutes, and I signed up for an hour. And it wasn't just about my breakup, but a lot of it ended up being about that. And she gave me an extra hour free. She was like, it's okay. And I came out, I needed that so badly. And now being a coach, and if I talk to someone longer, I do the same thing. If it's an hour and I have no one behind you and I have the time, I'm like, go ahead, let's keep talking. You need to talk. The Defiant Ones, great series, coach. Just watched that about a month ago. Yeah, and like I said, one thing that stood out to me is in the Defiant Ones is it wasn't just a straight shot to fame. It wasn't, like he just made tons of money and was just glorious all the time. He had to make some tough decisions and walk away from situations where he was making good money and he was seriously famous and popular, and kind of take 2 steps back to take 2 steps forward later on. I would never touch a married person. You're just filling a void for them, and you couldn't trust that they wouldn't also cheat on you. Judy Jack, that's simple info, but yeah, at the end of the day, I've never been in that situation. I've had situations where I've worked with women that made it obvious that they, wanted to hook up, and they had a boyfriend, and we'd flirt and whatnot, but I wouldn't cross that line. And I especially don't know how someone could cross the line once they meet someone. Once I've broke bread or talked to a guy and it's like, oh, this is my boyfriend, you shake the guy's hand, or you guys go out and have a drink or something like that, and then you hook up with his girlfriend? No way, no. I felt my psychic was legitimate. Probably was. Let me ask you this, brand new Skinner, out of curiosity. Was this a phone call or was this an in-person thing? And is this someone that has a website? Can you share it? If you don't want to share it, it's fine. But I'm just curious because I do have an interest. Definitely check out that book, Extraordinary Knowing, if you're interested in this, because she does a in-depth look at this stuff. That's not it's scientific based. It's she's researching it and she's looking at it as a skeptic. So Extraordinary Knowing is great for that. If you have any questions about that, she really dissects the whole situation. Went to a psychic years back and she mentioned a dream that I was having that was reoccurring since I was young. And I had never told anybody about that dream. Isn't that, like I said, I think that people don't like to believe that it's possible because they're not going to get, like I said, they're not going to give you the lottery numbers, right? They're going to tell you who you are and what you're doing. And let me take this a step further. What's the hardest thing in your life you ever, oh, you retracted your message. Sorry, I lost my train of thought after that question. The thing about that is, Nike One, what you just mentioned, we just don't share it with other people because other people you think are going to go, oh, that's stupid or that's crazy. But I've had it a lot in coaching where I've said something and someone's like, whoa, it's not necessarily psychic. It's being in rapport with someone. How does the internet work? Have you ever thought about that? Or how does it work to call on phones? Information is traveling through the air. Mac, what is the hardest thing in your life you have walked away from? Good question. Let me think for a moment, okay? I had a few deja vus when I was a little kid, and those happened in real life. What does it mean to have a deja vu? Like you had a dream and it came true? Is that what it means? Just to clarify, she brought that up and totally threw me for a loop. Mine was interesting too. What I had written is I was like, I'm going to write a book. I'd written like 5 things that I want to do before I die, kind of thing. This was after a breakup, and I don't know why I said write a book. And at the time, I wasn't a big reader of writing, and she was like, I can see you're a writer and you're going to write a book. And I was just like, what the fuck? I just wrote that 4 days ago. And then she's like, you're a teacher. And I was like, this is what I've always wanted to do, but I haven't done it. And then she said, but you're not a teacher in a classroom. You're something different than that. So, dun dun. Mac, what's the hardest thing in your life you have walked away from? Off the top of my head, like I tell you guys out there, the first thing that comes to mind is actually moving to Thailand. I left a job. I was in real estate, and the job wasn't bad. I was doing okay. The market was at a bad point, so that helped leaving. I lived in what now is becoming a very expensive place because the Bay Area is so expensive. I had a lot of things in place. I had a lot of friends. And I walked away and I went, you know what? I'm going to take my shot and I'm going to go away and do a year of teaching abroad at 28 years old. And I'm going to say, fuck it. And it's my buddy's like, well, keep your real estate license. I'm like, yeah, I will. Walked away. Had some friends come to the house. I said, look, some of the friends were like, you're really moving? I'm like, yeah, I got a TV. I got this. I got that. You want that? You want this? Even got some extra clothes. And I said, I think I even had a listing at the time that was still alive, and I just handed it over to a friend. I just went, I'm going for it. And at the time, it was hard to walk away from because I had a lot in place. I had a lot of people that I had a lot going that people would go, wow, dude. But inside, I was a wreck. And I needed to change, and I needed to do something for me, and I needed to do something that was exciting. And I went for it. So it was hard in that sense, but at the same time, it was exciting. Yeah, that would be one of them. But if I had to say one of the hardest things that ever happened to me, I've shared this in a video before, was getting cut from the freshman basketball team in high school. That fucking hurt. That was like, oh man, because I was playing basketball 3 years prior. I was a starter. I was on a really good team in 8th grade. I thought I was a pretty good player, and to get cut my freshman year, that hurt. That hurt bad. So I don't know if that was walking away from something. That's a little different. That's being forced out. Yeah, but my story wasn't like Jordan, JJ. But I lived on to play some hoops, and I could still play basketball and whatnot. But I mean, at the time, it would crush me, man, because I didn't think I was going to get cut. I was a really little guy too. I was only when I got to high school, it got a little more real about your size. I was about 5'2", probably 100 pounds when I was a freshman in high school. And all the way till I was 16, I was about 5'6", 100. I think on my first license, I came to take the DMV, you know, when you get your driver's license. And the lady started laughing, and she's like, "You're 16? Oh my God. I would never believe that." And on that license, if I'm correct, I think I was 5'6", 110 pounds at 16 years old. But I was never, I could never say I was bullied or, you know, had issues. I never thought of myself as small. And then I grew to 6 feet tall when I was 18. So people run into me now from high school like, damn, you had a growth spurt, man. Yeah, that would probably be the hardest thing to walk away from. I guess at the time I was a bit excited. Walking away from my breakup was probably the other thing. Not, you know, I didn't have as much trouble as people have with not contacting, because I knew I felt so bad and so sad that I didn't want to be pathetic or pitiful. And I was a little angry. So I was able to stay away in that sense. But yeah, that was, there's a married woman at my work who's hitting on me, asked me if, all right, Todd B. I don't know why, but they kept your statement out, and I'm not going to show it because, like I said, I want to keep my channel, and I think they're getting more strict. But there's a married woman at my work who was hitting on me, asked me if I wanted to sleep with her last week while she was on lunch hour, while she was, wow, while it was that time of the month. That's a lot of information. That's crazy, Todd B. Number one, beyond just someone being married, do you want to have a relationship with someone you work with? That's a good question. I think the dynamic has changed a lot, and it depends on the office and this place you work at and how close you guys interact. But someone that's married, that's a double whammy. That's a double no-no. She knew you would be a rider of a boom because you could talk your ass off. Yeah, and that day I did talk my ass off, bud. Might be better just recording an audio book and skipping the whole fucking writing process, right? Just like Jordan. Like Kanye said, we're all self-conscious. I'm just the first to admit it. Admitting that is hard for some people. Oh yeah, we're all self-conscious. I mean, the older you get, the less you get, the less deja vu is feeling of having already experienced the present situation. I don't know if I've had that. I don't know if I've had that. Where like you say, you feel like you've been somewhere before. I don't know if I've had that. Thinking about it. Mahash Karna. I have a pretty good physique and intelligent, but I look ugly in life. Not even single girl loved or liked me. What the fuck is that, dude? But I look ugly in life? You mean physically ugly? First of all, there's an ass for every toilet seat. My uncle used to say that all the time. And what I mean by that is that there's someone out there that fits you, that likes you, that, you know, how many times have you seen someone, like, don't ever fucking say you're ugly, man. If someone else wants to say that's fine, but not on this show. I'm not going to stand for that. I mean, if you got a good physique and you're intelligent, the fuck, you're saying your face isn't nice? I mean, those are two big fucking qualities right there, buddy. But this idea, that's an unintelligent statement. But I look ugly in life. Not even a single girl or like me. That's bullshit, man. That's just a bad way of thinking. A really good book for you, Mr. Coma or Corna, would be Psycho Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Take a look at that book, dude. I'll do I know I keep talking about this, but Psycho Cybernetics. I might have spelled that wrong, Nike one. Psycho Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. If you have a problem with the way you look, the guy was a plastic surgeon, and he talks about doing really good work and people still thinking they're ugly after, their nose was fixed or they maybe had a burn or something like that. And it's all mental, man. But really, what's interesting about looks is the physique. I think might be more important than, whatever you're thinking you look ugly. I would just think your face maybe or something, but like there's so many things you can do. Another one is The Game by Neil Strauss. I mean, look at that guy's picture. This is another good book for you. I know, guys, I got to do a book review channel. The Game by Neil Strauss. Great book. If you see this guy's picture, he was a writer for Rolling Stone. He's a dork, right? And I say that affectionately. I got friends that are dorks. I'm a dork sometimes, right? But I mean, like, he really... And then he like shaved his head. He got a goatee. He changed a few things and he looked fucking cool, right? But he still was only like, probably like 5 feet nothing, a little guy. But he changed everything about his look. You can change your look, dude. I mean, people might, you're trying to, our bullshit. Change into whatever you want. You watch my videos. Someone has commented on this before. I have like, I don't know how many videos, 500 or 400 now. And, like I have a beard in one, I have a tan in another, and someone was like, wow. I was like, I guess that's how I am, right? So, I mean, whatever. The fuck, man? Don't ever fucking address yourself as ugly because the only person that'll make that true is you, right? And ugly is just a word. It's not an absolute truth. And it's also a moment, right? If you look at all my videos, there's sometimes I look a bit rough. My hair's fucked up. My eyes are... a little bit baggy or something, maybe I had bad sleep or something, but I keep showing up. People are, you got to get more views or this or that. Keep fucking showing up. Keep pumping out quality content. Keep helping people out, right? For you right now, keep your physique up, keep your intelligence up, and read that book, The Game and Psycho Cybernetics, and do not address yourself as ugly, right? And life, not even a single girl or like me. I just don't believe that. That's not true. That's a state of mind. And you can shift that, bud. You could shift that. If you're having a lot of trouble because you had a bad breakup, I'm not sure if that's why you came here. Mahesh, book a live coaching session, my friend. Where are you from, Mahesh? Just out of curiosity. We are electricians. You remind me of my ex who cheated on me. Electrician, huh? That's a good job. It's a really good job. Where are you electrician at, out of curiosity? Don't do it. Married guys show up in your inboxes too. It's the most disrespectful feeling. Yeah, like I said, I've never messed with a married person that I knew was married. The session was in person. I sent her a text and we set up the session. She laid out cards. Oh, it was a card reader. She laid out cards for me and she used them as a guide. I felt as it was legit because she said it was spot on. What, Brandon Skinner, you're in Chicago, so this was based out of Chicago? Self-respect, absolutely, JJ. That's all we got, my friend. We can lose it, but we always got to regain it. She basically gave me a huge discount. Oh, out of curiosity, how much was it? David D'Angelo, Double Your Dating, huge dork and super successful. I mean, dorks are cool, right? When I say that, I don't say that. Really, you're a real estate broker? I was in real estate too, man. Cool. I was in residential real estate, but I know that commercial real estate is probably the better long play because it's less emotional and you don't have to work weekends as much, right? I don't know which one you're in, but if I had to go get into it again, I would do triple net leases. I had a friend that was doing that, and really focus on commercial because it's more of a long play. Not judging, I've spelled word wrong in every post today. I don't really care as long as I know what it is. The funny one was sweets, right? When you wrote sweet instead of suit, I'm like, why are you saying my friend got it was just a nice sweet, picked it up. I'm like, he picked up a sweet. YouTube is being a biatch. YouTube, I'm a real estate broker. Yeah, EG, it's true, but I got to respect it because it's their platform. And at some point, I'm going to have to do some other platforms to safeguard myself here and do some podcasts and other things. So if YouTube says, we're going to take your channel away, that I have some other places that I can reach people, right? Mahesh, just improve your mindset and you'll be able to get chicks from left to right. Mahesh, I hope I didn't scare you away by what I said. I was just being real with you. Don't ever fucking address yourself as ugly, dude. Don't do that. If someone says it to you, they got a problem with themselves. And like I said, look at the book, The Game and Psycho Cybernetics. Please read those. Please, if that's an issue for you, because you got to rebrand yourself, bud. The idea that you got a good physique and you're intelligent, though. The fuck, dude. There's a lot of fucking models out there that don't have a lot of intelligence. Mahesh, just improve it. It's all about how you carry yourself. Example, I was 285 pounds at one point. My ex was 100 pounds soaking wet. I've never had a problem with the ladies. Now I'm about down 85 pounds. And they're more chasing, but it's all about the perception you have of yourself. Yeah, that's true. But I will say this. You feel better when you're at a pretty good playing weight, right? And I don't just mean that the way you look. What's up, Shawn Michaels? I haven't seen you in ages, bud. It's about, when you lose that weight or whatever, and I'm not talking about necessarily looking, I'm talking about feeling good, feeling better, right? It's like I know some people that are heavy set and they're overweight and they're always complaining about their back and their knees. It's like it's the weight, dude. That's a physical ailment from having too much weight, right? But how you feel about yourself is huge. Yes, sir. That's why I mentioned I was an appraiser too, 15 years, both residential and commercial. Flipped houses too. Interesting, dude. Nice one, Todd B. Dude, you're not ugly. Well, that's kind of you, Todd B. I know. Is that addressed to me or? I know it's for Mahesh, right? If I remember correctly, the service went where she gave you a reading and let you ask 2 specific questions and some other things. It was around Christmas, so it was like $60 discount, I think. Your commenter. I know, Todd B. I'm joking. I'm fucking around. That's not bad. Brand new scanner. That's interesting. I mean, the nice thing would be full disclosure. When I'm talking about that book, Extraordinary Knowing, the person that I called was in that book. So after I read the book, I'm like, well, this lady vetted this person, said they were real, said that they surprised her. She was in the book. The book was set, I don't want to say famous, but it was, it was in Barnes and Noble. And I got the lady from that book and, paid her, and it was expensive. It was like $200 for an hour or $225. I could date any woman I want to, but the thing is that I don't feel like doing all the work. I'll just till I wait it out. Dating someone shouldn't be considered work. It's like I have a coach right now that helps me out with YouTube and organizing a system right now to get more organized, organizing the system to get more organized. And he preaches about the business side of YouTube and these other things, which I haven't had a deep interest in. But one of the things that's really interesting is he's like, when you're in a flow state and you're doing work that you like this live stream right now that I just realized is an hour and 15 minutes. This isn't work, right? This isn't work to me. And when you're in a good date and you're in a flow state, you should be losing track of time. And you should be feeling like, wow, this isn't putting in work, right? If you feel like it's work, then you're already in an uphill battle, if that makes sense. Mac, I got to ask a b-ball question, opinion on Zion. I got to get his basketball channel on. I know a lot about NBA. Opinion on Zion? Fun to watch. Athletic genius. I would be a little weary about his weight. The fact that he blew out a shoe is a little unnatural. Usually players, look at Shaq. Look how skinny Shaq was as a senior. Usually guys get bigger in their mid-20s to late 20s. And so if you're already thick and big, he really needs to go on a special meal plan, because right now he's just right. But if he gains some weight, no. And that's what made Draymond Green so great, is in college, he said when he got to the pros, he got a dietitian. He took his conditioning really seriously, and it took him to the next level. So if Zion can take his conditioning and all that to the next level, that would be great. He's absolutely fun to watch. But I will say this: I think that sometimes as fans, guys that are athletic dynamos and that are so fun to watch aren't actually winners. I.e., Russell Westbrook, who's probably the funnest guy to watch, probably the most athletic guy I ever seen. I saw him in person when he was a rookie, and he's flat out probably the best athlete on the floor. But does he win? Right? Look at guys that are winners that aren't as athletic. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Larry Bird. Who else am I leaving out there? There's some guys out there that having supreme athletic ability doesn't produce winning championships. Another guy I'll give you an example of that's not a winner is Anthony Davis. Just saying. Sorry, I went on a tangent there, guys. This is not what you come here for. But he threw on a b-ball. Coach, I'm out. Good night, brother. Rest for a great one as well. Thanks, Nike, for always contributing. Have a good one, bud. I just got out of a toxic marriage. Daughter caught her cheating on me with a heroin methadone addict. Been single for 9 months, just working on myself. That's how I found your channel. Well, that's cool, Todd. Thanks for sharing, bud. You're more than welcome to send your full story into writemac.com. But 9 months, huh? Been single for 9 months. Well, I mean, did you have kids, Todd B? If you don't want to share that, and that's personal, but I mean, that's another step. But I'll tell you this, bud. How long were you married? If she was cheating on you with a heroin or methadone addict, she was probably doing the same drugs, if I had to guess, because people don't usually hang out with people like that unless they're partaking in the same thing. And that, from what I understand, those two things are pretty nasty drugs that are hard to get rid of. And even if she wasn't doing them, if she's associated with an individual like that, then she's highly manipulative or easy to be manipulated. And, you don't want to be in a long-term relationship like that. And this might be the best moment of your life 9 months ago, breaking up with her, because if you prolong a situation like that, the drug or this other guy is going to become, the hallmark of the relationship. So now that you freed yourself up, you're doing some self-improvement, I bet. You're taking some inventory on your own life. You're refreshing things. You're recalibrating the ship. You're in a fucking good place, dude. You're in a good place, man. Only go for the type you want. Never settle. I got over my ex completely. In fact, I don't want to be with her anymore, but still watch your videos for self-growth. That's fucking outstanding, Sean. Thanks. I appreciate it, dude. I remember you writing your story and what went on and whatnot. I'm glad I could help out, and I'm glad you still find the channel useful and helpful. Thanks for chiming in, dude. That was a while ago, 6 or 7 months ago. What's really interesting about reading people's stories is people like 6, 7, 8 months, 10 months, a year later, something I said or something that was discussed in a live coaching, they'll come back and they'll be like, wow. And in my own life, when I've gotten help or advice, sometimes shit doesn't really resonate or surface 6 months, 7 months, or 8 months later. And then you're like, okay, I get it now. Sometimes it's gotta marinate for a bit. People say that men who uses emojis aren't alphas. I don't know. I don't use them. I have friends that I would consider to be pretty alpha that do. So, I mean, that's tit for tat. I don't know. It looks like he gained weight between the draft and the summer league. That's not a good sign. When you get to the NBA and you're making that kind of money, you have no excuse not to be in tip-top shape. I'm sorry. That's like Right now with these guaranteed contracts and stuff, that's the one thing about you know what I mean? Just there's no, it shouldn't even be a question. You should immediately be in the best shape of your life when you make that much money in your job solely for basketball. People will get triggered for it. Westbrook might be better with the Rockets. Yeah, I'm just saying as an example. People fall in love with the guy that's ultra athletic and dunk on people and is really fun to watch, but is he going to win championships? You look at the Warriors, you look at the Spurs, you look at some of these teams, and they're not ignited by ultra athletic players. Look at, what's Kawhi Leonard or whatever. He's not ultra athletic. People are like, oh, yeah, he's not. He actually has hips like an old Labrador. I mean, he walks around kind of pigeon-toed. He's got a great basketball body. He's highly efficient. He's an outstanding basketball player. Is he highly athletic? No. Is he quick? Not really. But he's worked on his craft. He knows who he is. Guys that rely on dunking on people like that, sometimes, I don't know. You know, the greatest player of all time is Michael Jordan, undisputed, with, LBJ, LeBron James, probably second. And the thing about those guys is they combined basketball IQ, desire to be the best in the game, played their asses off, never injured, and are ultra athletic. And that's why they're the best. Usually it doesn't line up that way, because when guys are ultra athletic and they tend to rely on that more. And that's not always the best way to be, because you're giving so much energy on the dunk. How many times does Westbrook fall down? He falls down, and then the other guys go the other way and score a bucket. So it's even though it was a fabulous, outstanding, impressive play, it still isn't a winning play when you fall down on one end and they can just push the ball up. Sorry to go on a tangent. Basketball it's the only emoji I ever used. Use emojis whenever you want. That's not a masculine, feminine thing. I mean, if you want to use them, fine. I don't really get into them. When you start, I'm not saying this to you, EG, but when you start tit-tatting people for what's feminine and what's masculine and stuff, that could be thought of as feminine. Keep your head up, brother. Being here, listening, giving advice, you're already on the right path to personal growth. Keep striving for greatness. Universal sign for stick donut. Yeah, thanks, Nike One. Yeah, but they also have good teams. Westbrook has been on teams where there's like Westbrook, one other good player, and the team tapers off after that. Yeah, that's my opinion. I gave it. Not with her. She was a cluster B. I don't know what that is. Cluster B personality, B type. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. What's up, Eddie Braun? Legend continues. I love the name. Todd B. Hell no. I attempted suicide because she had me so depressed. Working hard. You inspire me. Thank you. Well, fuck, Todd B. You just gave me chills right there. Don't do that again. Man, if you're ever in that state, man, keep fucking showing up, bro. Shit. I don't like to read that word. Send me your story, Todd B. Send me, even though you've been 9 months out, is there if there's still some stuff going on in your head, there's still some stuff bothering you want to unpack it with me, send it in, dude. But don't ever fucking try that again. Come on, man. You're good people. If you're coming to my live stream and you're watching some of my stuff, then a lot of stuff resonates with you. Fuck, man, send your story in. Promise me you will not attempt to do that again. I'd like to hear stories where people who came back after cheating and other stories. I hear you on your channel get rejected, or we hear the excuses they give. Call me evil. You like the stories, huh? You know what it is, Brand New Skinner? People share what they want to share, and I think a lot of times people don't share those stories because of shame. So there's a lot less stories about cheating, and I just don't think people like to admit it. If they were the cheater, this is just my hypothesis. You know, people, if they were the victim, they like to share that. Or if someone did them wrong, they like to share that. But it's something that puts them in a bad light, where someone broke up with them because they cheated in the past. People don't like to share it as much. Do they share it? Yeah. But somehow they validate it in some ways too. Like to hear stories where people who came back after cheating and other stories. I own your channel. People don't overcome that a lot. Women get mad at us. If you have one of those stories, brand new Skinner, send it in to me. Or if you have one about a friend to share. Finally, I'm back on deck after being busy for an hour. I missed the start. So what's the topic about today? Well, I'm just about to leave. Sorry to tell you, bud. But basically, what's the best thing that ever happened to you? Was going to leave, but Todd B, I've been there. My ex was a heroin addict. I've had a brother and my dad who have lost their lives from that. Stay focused on what it is you want out of your life. Keep up the self-improvement. Everything else will fall into place for you. Trust me, I've been there where you're at before. Shit, man. It's giving me like chills. Goosebumps. Nike One, you're good people, bro. I know that. Todd B, he's speaking real, bud. He's speaking real. Sometimes emojis help with tone, especially teasing or sarcasm. Men do use them. Yeah, and it's completely fine. I mean, I don't really particularly like them, but that's just a personal thing. I mean, whatever. Finally, older person give me LBJ that label. LeBron James is anyone that takes anything away from him. He's an outstanding, incredible player with a great attitude and a great way about him. I mean, give the guy credit. He's never hurt, plays his ass off, even though he lost a lot in the finals. No one's been, to more. I'm not a fan of the Cavaliers or anything like that, but I appreciate greatness. I appreciate someone that's been out of trouble. I mean, shit. Thanks, brother. Todd B. Residual, yes, I have a good story. Share your story. If you don't want to share it, I'll do a private response if you want to do that. If you want to keep it, maybe it's something that you don't want to share on the airways. But it's definitely part of the healing process that I think helps. Todd and Nike One can attest. He did a private. What I mean by a private response for you guys out there before I close this up, if you send your story and you want to write a longer, more detailed story that you won't want to share publicly on YouTube, what I'll do is I'll make a private YouTube video so it's for your eyes only, so it's not public, and I respond to you directly, and it's a little bit more detailed, right? And then from there, if you want to do it, a lot of people want to do a live coaching, but everyone that I do that for really likes it because it's a response, but then you don't have to share it with the world because some things are personal. I get it. You're not going to share everything in a public YouTube video. Sir, how you got such a great memory power? You still remember me? You know what? I've always had a pretty good memory. My memory's been better since I've started doing this. It starts with listening. I've had jobs where I've had to use my memory quite a bit. So your memory is a muscle. So if you use it and you meet a lot of different people, that's part of it. When I was younger, I had a job where I had to get shoes. So you'd go, what's your size? You have to remember the shoe size. I used to be very much into stats, but also when I talk to people in a live coaching or your story and your name, when your story and your name come in an email, that's a pretty unique thing that I'm reading about you. So I'm going to remember you. It's not like we just met in a cafe and I said hello. That's different. It's casual. But also being a teacher for years, I've had 40 to 50 students in a class. I don't remember all their names, but I remember a lot. But what you remember is how people make you feel, and what you remember are people's stories. So I always get your guys' story. And I'll remember something about you as an individual. So if you want to remember something, if you want to improve your memory, have an association with the individual. So you're not just remembering Shawn Michaels, which is a name I'd probably remember because it's also the name of some famous wrestler, I think, right? But listening really well and associating it with something is probably one of the ways to do it. Todd B had a similar situation where a girl went for a heroin piece of trash, got pregnant, essentially ruined her life. I got a complete new start. It feels great. Yeah, Rob, I've heard what you've said before. That's a tough one, bud, but you're moving on. John Beddard. I'm going to stay on a little bit long. I got to go pretty soon, but I'm going to stay on a little longer because John just joined the live stream. Welcome, John. John's had a really tough divorce. He's emailed me quite a few times over the last few months. And I just want to tell you, bud, everyone in this live stream has gone through a breakup or something tough. In your particular case, I believe you were married 20 plus years with 2 kids. I want to say something to you, John, right now. Keep showing up in your life. Keep moving forward, bud, because your situation is tough, but you will get through it, my friend. And I know you're making an effort. I do. I know you're making an effort. I mean that, John. Because I read your story. You got a tough one, but you're gonna get through this. You're a strong man and you're a good dad. So sorry to make that individual there, but I haven't talked to John in one of these live streams before. I know he's having a tough time. And to answer your question, John, about sending your ex, I believe it's your ex now, a happy birthday. Like I said before, no expectations. If you want to send a happy birthday with good intentions, do it. If you have expectations of somehow that happy birthday turning into her wanting to be with you again, don't send it. Do you know John? Rob? Okay. I got a complete new start. It feels good. Not exactly cheating, but my friend had a chick ghost him a few months ago and then they catch up out of nowhere. She goes, as a friend, can I borrow $60? We joked about what else he'd get for $60. I don't know. A few months ago, cheating, but not exactly cheating, but my friend had a chick ghost him a few months ago and they catch up and out of nowhere she goes, as a friend, can I borrow $60? We joked, what else could he get for $60? I don't know. Maybe she really needed the $60. I want to help people with my story. I should have died, coach. Sorry for all the choppy responses, kind of going with the comments and with your conversation flow. No problem, Todd B. I'm happy you're here, dude. I'm happy you're sharing. Just make me a promise that you're not going to do that again, bud, because this is one of those things, man. Hey, send your story and send it in however you want if you want a private response, but don't keep fucking showing up in your own life as an individual, right? You got other things to share. And I'll send you a set of 10 questions to kind of get back in touch with who you are and what your purpose is outside of this relationship and outside of this ex. And a lot of time, I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to close this out strong. One of the reasons why you're still attached to your ex and you had such a hard time with it, if you cared about her and you were married, if she's with a bad individual and she's with someone doing drugs, you were worried about her, you care about her, and you can't believe she can't have those same feelings for you or that same kind of compassion. And the answer to it is not everyone does what you do or what you think. But I'll tell you this right now, John, this is one suggestion for John and anyone else out there. But if you're going at your worst time, I've told other people to do this. At your worst time, if you're really sad, if you're really going through it, exercise is a big one, right? Eating right, getting good sleep. I'm going to throw this one in there. And not many people do it, but the people that do it say it helps. Do some charity work. I don't care what it is. I don't care how. I don't care if it's playing sports at the local high school or pouring soup for bums on the streets. Do some charity work, because part of the problem with being depressed is you're obsessed with yourself and what's going wrong for you, and you're obsessed with the fact that your ex isn't receptive to how kind you're being. So go out there to a charity that's going to appreciate you giving, because as a human being, this is deep. That's the greatest fucking thing you can do. And what happens in a breakup is you're like, I can't give to my ex anymore. They won't receive. They won't do this. Go find a fucking charity. And I'm not going to tell you which charity to do it or anything that's charitable, and go work there and go do it for 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week. Go to a boys and girls club, go somewhere and work with kids, work with some other people, and give your time, not your money, but your time in some aspect. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's a small victory. It won't cure your breakup, but it will help. And for a moment, just for that fucking moment, you'll go, wow, this is bigger than just me wanting my ex back. I actually can contribute to fucking humanity outside of this. Think about that right now. And if that resonates with you, Don't sleep on this idea. Go out, do some kind of charity work. And this is the thing with well, you can tie it to real estate too if you want to make this a business thing. I mean, and that wouldn't be goon or anything like that, right? But go out and do something. Go on. And Rob, you're talking about, or I think it was Rob and someone else. The great thing about the internet, go research it right now. Go the areas in Utah that you live in or whatever. Like me, if I was going to do something, I used to work at the YMCA and I used to be a volunteer coach for a kids league, and I didn't get paid. I don't have kids. And my nephew played on one of the teams actually, but it was fucking outstanding. It was so much fun. And I really realized how good it feels to do things for me. And that was probably my first coaching experience, right? Which is far different than this. And it was a natural fit for myself. And that's the other thing. Why not do things and find yourself in other parts of your life where you're donating time and helping people so you get something. You don't realize how much you get out of helping other people. I went to Humane Society and walked and fed dogs. And how did you feel about it, Rob? Terrible. Oh yeah, I really regret that. Should have went to, right? Or you have a subpar day, but it always feels good to go to the beach. I'll tell you what, when you do charity work, you're never going to come back home and go, oh, I shouldn't have helped those people. That was stupid. I mean, it's one of the few guarantees, right? Because you're leading with, should be pretty appreciative, and you'll meet like-minded people that are outgoing and helpful. Do it. This has been a really good live stream. I appreciate everyone that's contributed. Thank you so kindly. John, you're a bad. Okay, I'm back on deck finally. I don't know, these live streams do this sometimes, but I just want to say I got to run, like I said. Any of you guys want to go to www.writemac.com, send your story in, more than welcome. It's been great today. Got a little bit serious at the end there, but I definitely recommend that if you guys are going through a tough time to do some charity stuff. Brand new Skinner, I love how it always feels like you're speaking to 1,000 people. What's the difference? What's the fucking difference? At least I can, when it's 7 to 10 to 12 people, it's really nice to interact this way. We really have a good time, get a little bit better like that. So it's a privilege, guys. And Todd, welcome, bud. John, welcome for the first time. You guys get out there and try to do some charity work. That's a nice first step. That's a nice active thing you could do immediately to feel good about not just yourself, but about society and different people, right? Because a lot of times what we're going through, like I said, you're focused on yourself and you're not around other people that are giving, and that'll eat you up. We sometimes don't choose who we hang out enough. Can't wait for the next one. Always a pleasure to participate in the discussion. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brand New Skinner. Thanks, Todd B. John, you're a fucking legend and you don't even know it. Take it easy, bud.